I'll call the meeting to order. Oh, okay. All right. Bear with us. I'm just seeing this now. So I'm calling the meeting to order. The order of the election will be the chief returning officer will conduct the election and the candidates will do their presentations. There will be a question and answer period and a potential in-camera member and delegation discussion. The election itself and the voting, the counting of the votes, the swearing in of the president, and then adjournment. So I will ask for an approval of that agenda. Moved by PJ, seconded by Gerald. All those in favor? Approved. So before I turn this election over to the chief returning officer, I will read out the names of the confirmed eligible voters and their delegates in alphabetical order. Nunavut Incorporated, PJ Arrero, Makivik Corporation, Mary Anga, Nunavut Government, Gerald Asiva, Inevaluate Regional Corporation, Eddie Dillon, Nunavut Government, Tyler Edmonds, Inuit Circumpolar Council Canada, myself, Monica L. Kanayok, Inevaluate Regional Corporation, Gerald Inglangasok, Nunavut Incorporated, Alupikutjap, Nunavut Government, Johannes Lam, Nunavut Incorporated, David Ningiungat, Makivik Corporation, Darlene Partridge, Makivik Corporation, Andy Purdy, Inevaluate Regional Corporation, Dwayne Smith. I'm asking if there's been any errors or omissions in that order. Okay, I will now Okay, can I have a motion to confirm the members and the representatives as read? Moved by Gerald Ingasok Mamiana and seconder David Ningyunga. All those in favor? Approved. Okay, thank you. I will now turn the rest over to the Chief Returning Officer, Elizabeth Ford.
Meet Monica. So again, I'm the Chief Returning Officer. In the back, I also have Heather Olhalski, who is the Returning Officer, the Deputy Returning Officer, and Will David, who is the Returning Officer, and they'll be assisting. So the candidates for the Inuit Presidential Election in alphabetical order are Peter Itanoir, Natan Obed, and Peter Williamson. The vote will be conducted by secret ballot upon the conclusion of presentations from each of the three candidates. While the candidates are presenting, I would ask that the other two candidates leave the room, and we'll escort them out and somebody will be there with you. Each candidate will have 10 minutes to present and then 10 minutes for questions following the presentations. The Deputy Chief Returning Officer and the Returning Officer will hold up a sign or indicate when there is 5 minutes left in the presentation time, when there is 2 minutes left, and when there is 1 minute left. After the presentations, we'll call each elector by name to the balloting station. Each elector will sign a ledger to receive a ballot. Please remember to mark your preferred candidate with an X in the box. Nothing else will be accepted, only an X. The returning officers will be present for the voting. The returning officers and scrutineers will be present if they have chosen to have scrutineers as the votes are counted. Once the votes are counted, we will announce the results to the annual general meeting. In order to become ITK president, a candidate needs to secure a majority of the eligible votes cast. A majority is greater than 50%. In the event that no candidate secures a majority of eligible votes cast on the first ballot, then the candidate with the lowest number of votes will be dropped from the ballot and we will revote. In the event that no candidate secures a majority of eligible votes cast on the first ballot and two candidates are tied for the lowest number of votes, no candidate will be dropped from the ballot and we will revote. So good luck to all candidates. We will begin the presentations again in alphabetical order with Peter Itanoir beginning with his presentation, and there will be time for questions. I would ask the other two candidates to leave the room while Peter's presenting. Will be over here indicating the timing for you. Just letting you know that Will is over in the corner, so he'll give you the 5 minute when you're 5 minutes, when you have 5 minutes left, when you have 2 minutes left, and when you have 1 minute left. Yep, if you're ready, please begin.
Inuvik. Keeping nunak lao yak tatag. Kuyan nami ublat yak. Amma kuyan nami magayaruk. Tamaw naktitaw yung nakaw ma ilipsin. Amma lo nirwayag sanot ilaw yung naktitaw kaw ma kuyalibong aksum magayaruk. Ilane ilaw yak sapang naklaw yak pasunilo amma lo ilane. Ilaw titaw niyang mga akme nalunak pasunitin nak matay man na. Kuya linak tin makayalo ang itaw bluna. Tagbani titaw kama. Ublumi, ublak, ukausik sa kulam makayalo jangit kaluak tunga. Kisiyan ilangay ukak di magalo ang mga sokay mo. Nako ay sangga magtaw. Taman na, what can anyone say to a pretty perfect organization? Makwa kaitaw lok tulik paksan o kalima aksay kati majutigin aktasi kaitaw sa lak matuwap tinunawag sanot kime kubluwit takubluwit lo piliri ariyaw nikut ITK kunit ammalu piliri yingin pityak sima yung makialuit uwam nulio kalima akluwit iman na kayo siwadliat tiyak tulo piliri ariyaw tiyak sima yung luki utamak kunan itinga sunitiay ni saktuni uwam nulitay man itukisi yung Ammalu tamakwa tiliyaw nikut katimayu unit ilipsini katimayu unit madiktaw tiasu tigluta kunang at isumataw yung maanaw yung piliri yung inyo madiktaw tiasu ti isumayu nga o kalimatu yung naksugitay ko at tukisiaraning kalwakso ni kanuiliw lang mga ta ilangagut tusang nalo akatang imat inutuin na oblo ni maani sani ITK kusani nga ni Kabluna nuna kakalawas tunga amma taip kuap tau inuit ilang ittau takpani inuit nuna kaktut tau tukisianik pakong mingmata ilangit makkuninga pilire ariyaw ni ITK kunit taam na sibudang may ukaw siri yumayaga ukwa takimir kuyak ka ubang ay lagawa makkuning asimagama sana ukunani Ontario government kuni 17 years sana kama taika ni ariyo katawdunga negotiate mo bunga taika ni nuna riyo katawdunga piliriga ngap taika ni soklo iman na magalo akik simatya makitunik piliriga kakusa kuya sung wapta angit tawya realing ni ministro along nudutamat kununga tak wapta pilir ukwa titik kakadla kai tawla up to ITK ku piliri ngin ukadima kai piliri ariasi iman na kiumettiak tummarealo matatama tumingale inubnua kuyalibunga ammalu tukisin nattiak suwi kisiani iman no qarduun nang miyungaptao tusaw mayaw tialuang ni matuwang aluni ilinyak si magaluaksunga tusaranik simangin nama tamat kuning piliri ariyaw ni kunik ITK kunik tamna okaw sireak tugu makkaw yaga sibul dittiarmi makwa piliriaria si ilangit okaw sireak dulong niarap kit unaka immaka una sibul liutillu okaw silirinik tusaw mak jukkapta imanna tikuyalong niarmatago Canada government kungit okaw silirinik miksanut makkununga First Nations kunnut inung nulu Métis kunut adla ngayon utura ngayon tayo man naili simang magkok takusimak duktunga lokakitaw yakut ukwa inuliri tukak ila uwaguli inu tukaktiw inuliri tukaw na pagkaptiw tayo kwa ilang government makko ilang tukisiat tiartuugalui sakti simak juttu qaritau yakkutaku simagaluartaka kisian tukisianik simangi jutaublutiglу ila akkorlutik ila ilangarsimak yuiarlutik titerarsimangmata tagwa takubluit sulerillalерпаниккуа ITK кутаматума миксаану пекуярмигу саққиттиниармата тааққуа гавамаккут Canada гавамаккунги тайманна итиллугу тааққуа ITK кутунисисималерпаат ину миксинганнут оқаусиу миксинганнут илияақуярминик тагвунга пекуяу илуану ilisisimaleqpaa tunisisimaleqpaa tamanna tukisinnanngittiarmat uamnut tukisiima najaqaluarpungali inuuguma qanoq taakku ITK kutuavertitaulikaallegmiga tamanna tukisinnaaningimmat immaqa uqautiyunnartassi Chiliniarpasi taimna nutaanguyoq isimatauниartu neruartauyoq tamatuminga inungnut uqausiqareali piqataanu una uqausilerinama uqausiriimaqqaugaluartara taimna pileriariaugialaortuugaluaq ITK kunnu tisirausillerineq inuktut titi ukwa qaniuyaarpait taapkua tisirausillerinermut taipsumani kallaarluulertu 1970 tigiartillugu Inuit Cultural Institute kuni aaqittaulorsimayut ICI Standard Orthography and Syllabic taipkua naammakkaluarmata tukisineqluktauqattaqqoorma tamanna Inuit isimaqattaqqoormata taapkua atuqiaraluaruptigu uqauseqqulasiuniartugut aakka igluanunga uqauseqsisangittigiarniartut uqausipsinnigukua titirausiit atoqlugit taiguusingi tukisinnaqsittiarniartut taaqqa amma ilanginukua pileriariasi ingmineerneq manna piguyummarialum ingutaaqsisimagama ingminiilaartumik tamartiluktaattiaq attorsimariarquuqapta tamatumik saanut ITK ku pileriariangan imanna pattaarpara pileriattiammarialu kayusiinnariaqarlunilu unaptauq unani qablunaanunaganni tiguyausimayut Inuit amisukallaulermata 900 ungataani manna imialuglu iyagaillu pijjutaublutik unataqlutik ningarlutik arnautiminik ningarlutik nutaqqamina annerteriblutik taimanna ingminiglu inu aqatigiktutik amisualuulermata manna violence tamanna kamagiyauyaqiaqqogaluarmat ITK kunnut ITK kut nipiungmat Canada luktaangut tamanna isimagiyaqiaqqoortavut ammauna peqataaguttaa innait amisungorpalliangmata elder abuse tamannaptau isimagiyaaqaarlu tuavertitaulikaallakkama uqallikpalliagiarniaram qauyimayunga amisukallaungma tamakko oqausiriyunnartavunnalu 10 minutes nailuagayaaqluniungmat oqausiksakka amisukallaoqqauyuugaluit una ITK atorninga inungnut ilaani isumagiyausungungma tusaumaluarumneeramik ITK kusuleringmangaata una ITK nipiunasuiakkuli ukununga nunalinnut sitamaulermata taapkua nunali Canadami angiyut nunattiavut nunavik nunavut nunakkut amaddaumata ammaptau Inuit unani qablunaa nunanganni amisualuulermingmataptau taapkuningaptau kikkartuiarialiugaluaq una ITK atorninga pikkuneqsauna sugilertara taimanna isumagiblugu ilipsinnik nipingatjutaungmat ilipsinnik atausermik nipiqaarutaungmat ammalumakkua saqtippalliayu Canadau kavamakkunginni pivalliayut ITK kunnungaarluti ilipsinnungausuungmata ammalu ilipsi ITK kunni tilisibluti qanuilioriaksaq tamatuma kiugiarlugu aaqqiksoqataugiarlugu taamna ITK aqqutauqqoormat ilipsiluktaangunni una uqausi tukisiangmittunga una iksivau tauqatauyoq ubbani pauktuutikkuni sooqneruarunna qataungimma takbani ilipsinni tukisiangitarali taamna Ukwag lumako ukaw sa tu makawyak fiber optics hydro study ukunani kiwad lang neutani apere juti yai time na titira lak sini so kaya makatimay no chili yaw guma ikayo ya kayak kunga amma uma titira lak tangitaw QIA could type kunung ukwa whole of government approach mixano kabduna yak lungo kausa na kawala time na pilirayaw yuga actually kisiane I understand from the paper that from the recommendations in your paper and I think you had some success with respect to Atando Iman that the whole of government approach worked for you, but you also had some very strong recommendations that this should not be allowed to slide. I see that ITK has evolved its election procedure, and my last point, I see that ITK has evolved its elections procedures. The last time was in 2012, I believe. I see that there was also a resolution to look at a couple of options on how to further evolve your election procedures, including many things. And I absolutely applaud this. People want to be inclusive. People want to be included, and they want to have a voice. I heard an elder the other day, speaking with an elder from Nauyat the other day, ITK ilaw rapta. Ammalo isumatangan inuktu kaum na kaya kaksuta ay inunui ma nagawa na titaw pata taman na sangininga sakit yung na yakok inung nudlo kablo na nudlo kuya na ni makayalo si aksu makayalo.
Nakamik, Peter. I'll now open the floor for a question.
Boy, that 10 minutes went by like.
Kuya Namik, nagwaktaw na yung nagawi Peter sunanik tautuko takayang mga kopi inun tapari kanatami ichibaw tango kayang nagawi.
Sibulong nita magkwapilo kaya ITK kunit nukakit cuma na yang nitaka tamang nagpiyong mata tamang nagpimmakiyong mata magkwatay nitaka ami sukad dahil pilo kaya ilipsin nit tamadyaw mata suli unayin maka iman ingminer na ang ilango katawag ni so kaya magkwap daw iglok do akat yang ninyak nutakan ulukamanak tamadyarong mata ami suklay tamakwa kayo sin na kumanayak pagka. Kisiyanip tao sakit tikanyak dugo manayak po nga ilip sinut katimayinut iman na man na elder abuse kamagiyaya kalaktabot. Amap tao na timimut siyaw to kalawag na diabetes. Ang iyong makayalo lang mataw nunaptin mi inuktiw rupa ni Canada may 65,000 no up to 5,000 kawya mayaw yung diabetes kaktus. Kisiani ungatia ni matay kwa ingmin kawya mang nitu diabetes kaktus ammalo kawya mayaw nitu inutiw ilinyak kitara hakolak tawut kanok taman na diabetes ikping ng mga tinit tinutiyong nitu makayalong matukon ng manlunay ammalo tamat kwa sibulong ni pilya kayaw yung kama there's a learning curve. Ilinyak jumilaw luwit pilari lupil katigi luwit tamat ko kayusin nako luwit pinayak po nga ammalo makwa kanulit kan nakayak tunik sakit tiya kayak po nga katimayinot recommendations, advice, options, diamond nakalo.
Andy?
Thank you, Elizabeth. Pita. Lakin na kawin matichinaksaw talaga aragabit. So marong inaksaw talaga nirekan na kawin ITK ko ni inunod. Tayo may patan na hano di kawin matichinaksaw talaga rakit. tikko hatusoma hatta tusomanginaksawna hattakaintati nalaw tikko hattanginaksawnni kungano uppalo oha kharangini kungano ittudiritserutanna laguti hattakaintai ammalo apaksuutirallakaintaqa hanulli haurematitsinaqsauliqaraqki niqartawaitovis.
The one thing kablunawi melak nangai yun nakaluwaktige inuktut kisyan kablunawi ako uuna. The one thing I might have a small bit of advice for ITK on is a better communication strategy. Inuit nunanganni maungali kabluna nunanganno. You have a great orator in the president you have right now. By the way, I'm an admirer of Natan. You know, I'm a fan of Natan. I heard him speak a couple of times and I thought, wow, he's a great speaker. My second thought was, what did he say? Kidding. But inukto kataon na ningaw na okaw jaw si magalwak you don't need to speak inuktitude as ITK president. Well, yes, that's true. By law, you don't. In practice, what about all those 4,000 plus Inuit who are unilingual up north? And I think their rights have been truncated somewhat by the fact that the leader of ITK could not go on radio, CBC, local radio, and speak to them directly in their language. And I think that's one part that is missing. And I think probably in a communication strategy with ITK, that has to be an included part. You have a very great communicator right now to the English world, and if properly translated to the Inuit world. But as I said earlier, I spoke with an elder from Nauyat the other day, and he said, we elders would like to be able to phone our leaders and talk to them directly and find out we want to know what's going on in the world. We want to know what's going on in Canada. We want to know what laws are affecting us, and nobody's telling us. And there's a big disconnect here right now. And so in answer to your question, the one thing I would be able to offer is go directly to a community or local radio or CBC and speak in the language that their rights have been I think their right to understand what's going on in their own language has been, I used the word truncated, taken away. But that's the one area where I would have a little bit of advice for ITK on. I think that's the question you had. Boy, the first 10 minutes is like 30 seconds, and the second 10 minutes is like 2 hours.
Koyan naming sibutok pamen koyan name rumaveke ukto katawgavin apere yumayunga kau yumagata nunain aviktok simayuin ajiging itung mata inoy nananganin nga simagarwaktutin nunangin angin ningi ajiging itung amaru inoy unong ningi ajiging itulutin so lokau yumagata nunat me 5% ngong mata inoy katil maslugi isimagilugi kanatamitun nunaving me 24% ngudluti inuviaru me 10% ngudluti nunavum me 61% ngudluti neroaktaun nerovi ITK kuno angayok hangong nerovin kano kigakutya yakpigit isumagilugun nunangin ajiging ituningin angin ningin lu ajiging ituningin amma unong ningin ajiging ningin ma isumagilugun kano kigakutya suga yakpigit koyan namin.
Koyan nami kaasung apeksuti yung apeksuti tiawaro. Ajiging ito tamakwa Inuit nunangit nunabumim maka amisyon na pasawlutik inunginit. Mauwana ka nunatiawum amisyon na pangublutik ilagiyang minin nunakatiminin. Unapeksuti iman napeksong no makwa ilaw tinayaktigit no nakatigiyangit ubalo batakwa tuin nakuluit Inuit 5%, 24%, 60%, taako qauseriarti taakkununngatuinnarluuva kiggartuaasugajarpunga ahakka inuqatigiingmata inuit tukisitittiarlugi suuqaimma uaptinik pilleriariaptinik makkua pilleriarinajartavut inungtuaangangmata kisiani makkuaptao inuqatigiyangit nunaminni tukisitittiarayarlugi tukisitittiara nasuglugittaa akirartoqungillugit akirartulisuungmata ilaanni tusulerlutikluunniit uvvaluunniit qipasulerlutik uvvaluunniit piquyinngillutik uvvaluunniit just out and out prejudice discrimination tamanna kamagina sugayarparali kiggartuituinnangillunga tukisitittinnasuglunga qanuiluqasummangaartaa inuuqutittinnut ammalu manna tungavigiarput atuttiarasuglugu makkua ilaanni tukisiani suunnersaangmata inuungittut uaptinnik makkuali inuit imanna sowa pititaujualu uvagulli ajortitauvluli illa there's a lot of history to account for that. So I'm not sure I answered your question, Aluki, but is my 12 minutes up?
Nakamik, Madam Chair. It's clear that you've given a lot of thought to the issue of elder abuse, and it's a very sensitive issue for sure. But I think it's a reality that we face in a lot of our communities. It does occur in very subtle ways. Obviously, we're a culture of giving, and sometimes that doesn't work well with a lot of our elders who are on tight incomes. I guess my question for you is, what is your plan to address this issue?
Boy, that's a good question, because currently I have no plan, to be quite honest with you. It is to identify the fact that there is elder abuse. It has not been raised very much in many circles, only in talking with, I'm not an elder, by the way. I will never qualify to be an elder. I'm just an older. And but I understand from people who are elders that people actually ambush them when their pension checks are coming and things like that. And there's also violence involved, and there's vocal and oral abuse. There's emotional abuse, and our elders, the demographic tree is growing in such a way that our elders are becoming more and more and more. And I would ask the board of directors to give the president and the staff of ITK a chance to look at this issue and address it in Inuit Nunangat, and advise governments and as well as develop a strategy on how to deal with elder abuse and make it more publicly known so that it's out there. It's not hidden. It's not latent. Thank you. Taima.
Emma Nakamik, thank you very
Lali.
much for putting your name forward.
I think that was the shortest campaign I've ever been involved in. Thank you very much, everybody. Can I pay to stay for the next one?
Welcome, Natan. So we'll have, as mentioned, 10 minutes for your presentation and then 10 minutes for questions following that. Will is in the corner and he'll give you the 5-minute, the 2-minute, and the 1-minute notice.
Nakumik, Ulakut, Inuit Nunangat, Hilaka, Natanobed Muyunga. I'm the president of ITK, and I've been pleased to serve that role for the last 3 years. I wanted to start by discussing something that I think a lot about, and this is a traditional practice that Inuit follow, that Inuit elders that I've talked to from across Inuit Nunangat have always stressed, and that was that you speak about what you've experienced, and you don't speak about things that you have not seen or have not experienced. And that's a really challenging thing to follow when you're in a role like the president of ITK, where we have to speak on a whole host of different issues. And we may have personal association with some of those issues, but on other areas, we might not have lived experience. And this, I think, gets to the point of our changing society and the fact that Inuit society is always growing and always evolving, and that we take the concept, the principle of that statement, which is very powerful, that we are grounded by what we know and what we have experienced, and we can tell the truth, and we can talk about issues through that lens, with now what we have to do to get by, which is to hear our population as leaders, to understand the different demographics, and from the elders to the youth to those people who are raising children, to those people who are on hard times, who are living in poverty or food insecure. We need to be empathetic, and we need to listen to all those voices. And then I have tried in my role to be as respectful to all of those realities that I have heard, in the way that then I speak about the Inuit reality in Canada. I'm also grounded by the relationships I have with elders, and the conversation and the wisdom and guidance that has allowed for me to feel confident doing my job. And so people like Lillian Elias here, who's at this meeting, in relation to language, and Mariano Alpelajuk, the late elder from the Kivalliq region, who I've been very blessed to hear address the National Inuit Youth Council and provide advice to Inuit youth in a previous role that I had, or Inuvik, who is an elder in Iqaluit, who worked with us on poverty reduction and talked about her perspective on poverty in Inuit Nunangat, or Mary Simon, who's taught me so much about political leadership and about the path to self-determination. I also think of my own region and the people that I have looked up to my whole life, people like John Gerarsi, who is from the Hebron area and was relocated with my father's family, who I've been able to go back to that area and hear his stories about our family, and where my grandparents fished in the summer, and the hills that he walked on as a child. Also my Aunt Sarah Paniuk and my late Uncle Percy Paniuk, who took me in when I went back as a young man, wanting to be a part of my society. And they, excuse me, they were the ones that held my hand through it all. The times that I felt disconnected, and the times when I came back, they were there to support me every step of the way. Also, Lucas and Sarah Itulak, who were instrumental in ensuring that I had a place in my society and name, and also are the link to my family in Coal Harbor, and then also the late Mary Dicker. I take all of the teachings, all of the things that they have told me, and I associate the work that I do with the passion that they had, the resilience they had, and the way in which they lived their lives and expected others to live with them. So I'd like to just pause now and bring us back to the role that I am here seeking a second term in. And so much has changed for me since I first became ITK president 3 years ago, when I asked delegates to put faith in me. I aspire to do this job because I want to help Inuit in the greatest way that I possibly can. I also believe that I have a skill set that's uniquely suited for this particular role. And I believe that I've undertaken this work with purpose and respect for Inuit democracy, for Inuit leadership, and also for all Inuit. I have fulfilled my role with humility, believing in the vision for Inuit self-determination, and knowing that I serve the ITK board and in turn, Canadian Inuit. I am an Inuit grounded in my culture, my history, and my community. I've worked for Inuit my entire professional career, and I do so because I want to create a better future for all Inuit. I'm also educated, caring, and have the ability to interact professionally and socially with a wide range of Canadians, which allows me to effectively build relationships with government leaders, the media, academia, the business community, and the Canadian public. This is such an important thing in this time of reconciliation, in a time when more Canadians want to know about Indigenous people, who only know Inuit as people who live in the Arctic, but know nothing more about our society and the place that we have in Canada and the fact that we are thriving as an Indigenous people in this country. In my term, we have worked very hard within ITK to improve the structure of ITK by focusing on Inuit hiring. We've gone from 35% to 55% in relation to Inuit who work at ITK. And we also have built our staff from 35 to now 49. Over the course of the 3 years that I've been president, our budget has gone from 6 million to 19 million, which was just approved for the 2018-19 fiscal year. And a lot of that money flows directly back into Inuit Nunangat, as directed by our board and as directed by the 4 Inuit land claim regions. Some of this money flows explicitly to regions, to communities for programs. Some of the money is directed towards national initiatives that are meant to help all Inuit across Inuit Nunangat. We've also brokered good working relationships with many different federal ministers and the Prime Minister, and those are essential to unlock funding and also to create the system change that Inuit want to see to create an Inuit Nunangat fiscal policy space and an Inuit Nunangat policy space in general. We have had some amazing successes over the 3-year term. We have created and implemented a strategic plan. We have created a national Inuit suicide prevention strategy, a national Inuit strategy on research. We have worked with the federal government to create an Inuit TB elimination plan for Inuit Nunangat, which pledges to reduce the active rate by half by 2025 and completely by 2030. We also have just approved a climate change strategy, and we have done extensive work on lobbying the government to implement the United Nations Declaration on the Rights of Indigenous Peoples and also implement the calls of action for the TRC. The work on suicide prevention is especially important at this time, and it's something that I put as my first and only priority, other than to create a strategic plan. And I'm happy to say that within the first 9 months of my term, we were able to release that plan, and we have spent the last 2 years implementing it. I appreciate the faith that you have shown in me, and I ask for another 3 years to continue to implement this ambitious mandate and to continue to try to unite Inuit across Inuit Nunangat and wherever Inuit may live in Canada. Nakomi.
Nakamik Natan. Now I'll open the floor for questions. Aluki.
Kuya Naming. Good morning, Natan. First, I want to thank you for putting your name forward to become ITK president. My question is about equity. And we all know across Inuit Nunangat, the difference in geography and the difference in population among of Inuit. And for instance, Inuvialu is home to 10% of Inuit. Nunatsiavut is home to 5% Inuit. Nunavik is home to 24% Inuit, and Nunavut is home to 61% Inuit. So if you were selected as the ITK president, I want to know how you would ensure the fair representation, considering vast differences in size and population of each Inuit region. Kuya Namik.
Nakomik Aluki. ITK is built on unity, and the land claim processes that created the 4 Inuit regions are predated by the idea that we are one people, no matter where we live across Inuit Nunangat. It's imperative that we don't let our specific land claim structures and the geopolitical space that we occupy replace the unity that we have always had as a people. That being said, there are practical considerations for the way funds flow, the way decisions are made, to ensure there is equity for Inuit and Inuit leadership who have the responsibility for their particular jurisdictions. To that end, ITK and the ITK board have had many discussions about funding formulas to ensure that any new funds or any existing funds that flow to Inuit Nunangat regions flow in an equitable way based on a formula that is agreed to by the ITK board. And then in relation to the day-to-day work and the way in which ITK undertakes its mandate, ITK is always respectful and creates opportunities for all Inuit regions to provide advice, to give direction through the board, and to work on the issues that we all have agreed are in the national interest. So we recognize the central place and the large majority population that Nunavut Inuit have within the ITK structure. And we look forward to having discussions at the ITK board to ensure that that population is recognized and considerations are given for that particular part of the work that we do. Nakomi.
Tyler.
Nakamik, Madam Chair. Obviously, the last few years we've seen enormous progress with the bilateral relationship that we've had with the federal government, largely due to the work that ITK has done. I guess my question is, we may be looking at a potential government change within the next few years, and there's potential that a new leadership may be less sympathetic to the concerns of Inuit Nunangat. How will you ensure that our interests are continued to be protected within this bilateral relationship going forward? Nakomi.
The Inuit Crown Declaration that was signed in February 2017 in Iqaluit, Nunavut, set out a renewed relationship between Inuit leadership and the Crown. It is not our understanding that this is a renewed relationship with any particular party. We have set up the Inuit Crown Partnership Committee and have terms of reference for this particular committee and expect that no matter who the Prime Minister is and what party is in power within the federal system, that this structure will remain and that we will continue to work in partnership and create joint priority areas that then we monitor, evaluate, and renew every year. ITK is nonpartisan in that we have never supported a particular party over another, but we do support governments who are willing to work with Inuit and willing to work with us to create social equity and work on our terms in ensuring that land claims are implemented and that the broad national priorities of Inuit are respected and worked on. We will continue at ITK to ensure that no matter who is on the other side of the table, there is a progression and not a regression in relation to the relationship with the Crown. Nakomi.
Mary,
Great leaders not only view their interactions with youth as mentoring opportunities, but also as learning opportunities for themselves. When leaders don't take time to get to know their youth, they simply won't build the trust necessary to weather through difficult seasons that we face. It's essential that strong, caring, and loyal relationships are established so that collaboration can happen with respect to situations at hand. Can you give logic and detail how to protect our what is missing to protect our vulnerable, putting them out of risk for youth?
Nakomi Pinky. Inuit youth comprise the majority of the Canadian Inuit population. I believe 50% of our population is under the age of 24 nationally, and in some regions it's even lower than that for the median age. ITK works in partnership with the National Inuit Youth Council, and we greatly appreciate the role that NIYC plays. We always are looking for the youth perspective and will always ensure that there is a place for NIYC in this, any discussion that affects Inuit youth and that Inuit youth want to participate in.
Andy,
Thank you, Elizabeth. Hi, Nata. Just have one question for you. If someone were to say to you that due to your inability to speak Inuktitut, that you are unable to reach certain groups of people, our region, and they may be out of touch and unaware of what's going on with ITK, what would you say to that question?
Nakomic Andy. All of ITK's communication comes out in English and Inuktitut. So we make a huge effort to ensure that any material, any social media, any written material such as Inuktitut magazine or Nipit magazine, the NIYC magazine, is translated and can reach all Inuit no matter if they want to receive that communication in Inuktitut or English. I agree that because I'm not fluent in Inuktitut, that I cannot have a conversation personally with every single Inuk in this country. But no matter what, whenever I interact with Inuit, individual Inuit, I do so in a way in which there is that accessibility. So whether we are traveling and I have somebody who is fluent that can translate for me so that we can have conversations, or it's ensuring that I have surrogates or people who can speak on issues for me on radio or in media, there are always ways in which we can overcome that challenge, that obstacle. I don't think that a lack of Inuktitut should disqualify any Inuk who is seeking any office in this country. I do believe that it is one of the considerations, especially politically, that leaders have to make. Considering the language loss that we've experienced, considering the fact that we do want to be inclusive and to ensure that all Inuit have an opportunity to participate in our democracy, and considering that some regions do have more language loss than others, I believe that we should have the respect for all Inuit and then make the best consideration. Sometimes that may mean that the person with fluency is elected over somebody with not, and that might be a consideration, but I do not believe it is the only consideration when electing a leader who has a specific mandate to do for the organization that is broad and expansive and is not just linked to fluency in Inuktitut.
Nakamik Natan, we're out of time for questions. Thank you very much for putting your name forward. Welcome, Peter. As mentioned earlier, there will be 10 minutes for your presentation and then 10 minutes following for questions. Will David over in the corner will give you a 5-minute warning, a 2-minute warning, and a 1-minute warning.
My name is Peter Williamson, which we've met for the last 25 years. I've worked as a policy analyst for ITK, for INAC, and currently a university student. I'm currently a university student taking a Bachelor of Commerce in Entrepreneurial Management. My experience includes traveling to all 4 Inuit regions and writing the report, The Housing Crisis in Canada's Inuit Communities, and traveling to Europe a dozen times to visit 10 European capitals to stop the proposed European ban on wild furs. I changed the INAC mandate to include Inuit, and I raised how unfair the own source revenue policy is, which has recently been suspended until a new policy can be developed. The priorities I will address in this speech are eliminating food insecurity, increasing graduation rates, economic development, and addressing housing as a human right. More than half of Inuit adults, 52%, suffer from food insecurity. The biggest reason is they don't have enough money to buy food. 32% of Inuit children between 2 and 5 suffer from food insecurity. When this many young children are going hungry, we know their parents are giving them food from their own plates, so the whole family is suffering. The federal government delivers the Nutrition North program, which subsidizes the high cost of shipping, and provincial and territorial governments deliver welfare programs, which provide a minimal amount for basic human needs. However, when food insecurity is so high, we know these programs aren't working. Today, the only people who can afford to go hunting are those who have a job, and Inuit on welfare are stuck in their communities. They can't go hunting, and their families are going hungry. I will change this by bringing together the federal, provincial, and territorial governments to develop programs that will allow Inuit on welfare to access the hunting equipment they need to go hunting, including warm winter clothing. Unless we do this, the people on welfare in Inuit communities will always go hungry, and so will their children. Only 42% of Inuit have a grade 12. As a result, the Inuit unemployment rate is 22%. More than 1 in 5 Inuit are unemployed or underemployed. Too many Inuit live in poverty. ITK and Inuit regions have taken a very broad approach to improve the educational outcomes of Inuit, with the first priority being to make Inuktitut the language of instruction. This is a very good long-term goal, but when there are so few Inuit teachers to teach Inuktitut, this goal can only be achieved when you have enough students graduating from high school and then going on to graduate from teacher education programs. Only then can you make Inuktitut the language of instruction. From a policy perspective, I would recommend ITK focus on 4 issues. First, to set a goal to increase Inuit graduation rates, including adult basic education, increasing graduation rates by 50% in 10 years, just as an example. A goal like this will give ITK a target to work towards and try not to do everything for everybody. When 22% of Inuit are unemployed, increasing the graduation rates should be the first priority. Second, set a goal on how many Inuit teachers want to graduate from teacher education programs. If you don't have enough Inuit teachers, Inuktitut will never become the language of instruction. Third, identify barriers that are causing our young girls to drop out of school and develop programs that will keep them in school. Fourth, do the same thing for boys. Boys have different barriers and will need different solutions. I encourage each of the Inuit regions to continue your work to improve the education systems in your regions. But on these issues, we will need to work together. There are 2 critical issues driving economic performance in the Inuit regions which need to be addressed. First, we need to assess the economic impact of low Inuit education levels. There are higher welfare costs, higher costs to import and export Southern labor, higher public housing costs, and higher healthcare costs. We need to establish what these economic costs are and to use them to strengthen our case to increase Inuit graduation rates. Second, the high cost of living has a negative economic impact on federal dollars spent in Inuit regions. A dollar spent in Toronto doesn't have the same economic impact as a dollar spent in an Inuit community. This is why the federal government provides its employees isolation post allowances, but there are no such established guidelines to increase federal program dollars spent in Inuit regions. This needs to change. 39% of Inuit live in overcrowded housing. It's common for 3 generations of the same family to live in the same house, even though we live in one of the richest countries in the world. Inuit have lived in overcrowded housing since Canada first established Inuit communities in the 1950s and 60s. There are real-life consequences for an entire race of people living in these conditions for 60 years. Research from around the world shows us what these consequences are. In South Africa, children living in overcrowded housing miss school more often and are less likely to graduate. Only 42% of Inuit have graduated high school. In Jamaica, people living in overcrowded housing have higher unemployment rates. 22% of Inuit are unemployed. In Inuvik, 27% of families reduce their children's meal sizes, and researchers are 95% confident it's the result of living in overcrowded housing. In Australia, the worse the housing conditions that people live in, the worse their health. And the poorer their housing, the poorer their mental health. The Inuit TB rate is 270 times higher than the non-Indigenous population in Canada, and the Inuit suicide rate is 11 times higher than the Canadian average. This research clearly shows the substandard living conditions that Inuit communities experience can all be linked back to overcrowded housing. The Universal Declaration of Human Rights recognized that housing, education, employment, food, health, and mental health are all human rights which must be respected. This respect hasn't happened yet. The Declaration on the Rights of Indigenous Peoples says Indigenous peoples have the right to prompt decisions to resolve disputes with states and to effective remedies for all infringements of their individual and collective rights. This includes effective measures to improve their social economic living conditions, especially for elders, women, youth, children, and the disabled, and the right to be actively involved in developing programs to improve their living conditions. Finally, the Declaration on the Rights of Indigenous People says the United Nations and states have obligations to provide Indigenous peoples with the financial and technical assistance necessary to fully enjoy their rights as contained in the Declaration. If elected, I will be invoking these provisions with the Prime Minister of Canada and the Secretary General of the United Nations in my first 60 days of taking office. Thank you.
Nakamik, Peter. Now I'll open up the floor for questions.
Ulako. Good morning, Peter. First of all, I want to thank you for putting your name forward to be considered for ITK president. As you know, ITK is recognized as a national Indigenous organization, and it is an organization made up of board members that represent the 4 Inuit land rights, the rights holding organizations. I want to know what your perspective is in terms of ITK's role in the relationship between Inuit and the federal government.
Like you said, there are 4 Inuit regions, land claims regions, who have negotiated land claims, and some are negotiating self-government. The regions play a very important role in land rights and in governance. For ITK, what I believe is that ITK represent Inuit on a national level, primarily with the federal government, to address issues that are important to Inuit, both in Inuit as individuals and Inuit as land claim signatures, who also, some are negotiating self-government. What I believe is that ITK plays an important role to improve the lives, the standard of living for Inuit as a general policy objective. And that's really important. The regional organizations play that role, but they also provide direction to ITK. And I think working together, both as a national organization and as the regional organizations, is extremely important, because there are issues that affect Inuit across all regions. And when you have one region trying to address an issue with their provincial or territorial government and the federal government, and there are other Inuit from other regions trying to do the same thing, we need to work together to ensure that those solutions that are developed can be applied across the board.
Rebecca.
Hi, Peter. If elected president, how would you support Pauktutit? And do you think it's important for women to sit at all tables um, that concerns Inuit?
Yeah, I think both as my role in with ITK and with INAC, I've worked with Paktutit quite regularly. I think from a housing point of view, which is my priority issue, I mean, I have other issues which I mentioned, but I think from a housing point of view, the human rights framework, including the Declaration on the Rights of Indigenous Peoples, recognizes that those vulnerable groups need particular attention paid, and that includes housing. So I would think that trying to get housing for women with children who are especially school-age children trying to go to school is extremely important, but also because we have such limited housing in the north for those women who are experiencing domestic violence, they need a place to go in their own community where it's safe. And that's what I think needs to be done from a priority point of view in addressing housing. Those are two issues that I would advance very strongly.
Tyler, you have a question.
Nokamik, Chair. You've spoken quite often about the importance of education and increasing graduation rates across Inuit Nunangat. It's clear that you've given some thought about the process and timeline, saying that you want to do a 2% increase each year over the next 5 years.
Yeah, I use that as an example because I think we do need to set a target so that there's something to work towards. If we just say that we want to increase graduation rates, but we don't give a date to work towards, I mean, it could go on forever. But I think that we need to do what we need to do is set a target. But in defining what that target is, I think we need to do the research that is necessary to find a target that would be workable, and then also to put in place the programs that would support achieving that target. And that is the really important part, is putting in programs in place. Take, for instance, you know, there are young women who are getting pregnant, and I know from reading the literature in Inuvik, there's a lot more child care facilities, and because of that, you know, they're doing better young women in Nunavik are doing better than the other regions. I think that's something we should be looking at.
Any other questions? Gerald?
My issues is with elder abuse. We have a council for women. We have a council for Inuit, but we're getting more and more elder abuse. How would you handle elder abuse?
Yeah, I'm aware of more elder abuse in Inuit communities, and it's something that's unfortunate that because our culture has changed so much, elders used to be held in very high respect, and we're looked to help resolve the problems that people are living with on a day-to-day basis, which is a policy issue that I'd like to pursue. But in terms specifically of elder abuse, as I mentioned earlier, elders are one of the groups identified in the United Nations documents regarding human rights. and making sure that elders are also taken care of in housing is something that's extremely important to me, because in my hometown, I even heard of one elder who went down to Winnipeg for, health reasons and was never sent back. And his family didn't know what happened to him, and they thought he died. And for over 10 years, he was in Ottawa. I think this is something that, especially for elders who are in need on a daily basis, we need to have more home care for elders so that they can stay in their communities instead of being shipped down south. And living in such housing will also provide them more security, which is what they need. And I would also advance that in terms of housing if I became president.
Gerald?
Thank you, Peter, for putting your name forward. What are your leadership qualities that would, make you an effective leader to represent us?
That's a good question. I've been working in policy and management positions for the last 25 years. And through this experience, especially policy experience, I've been able to look in at what the problems Inuit face and try and find effective solutions that will result. I've also learned how to work with people, which I think is really, really important, especially for a national organization, working along with the leaders from the regional organizations who have their own set of responsibilities, and trying to bring together people so that these issues can be addressed, both with the federal, provincial, and territorial governments. My experience includes learning how to do that, having worked in both ITK and within INAC. One of the things that I did at INAC was to establish the National Economic Development Committee for Inuit Nunangat. And through that establishment of that committee, we were able to bring together all the national and regional Inuit organizations to discuss economic development.
Nakamik Peter, and we're out of time for questions. We'll squeeze one more in if you want to.
I just wanted to add, you talk a lot about housing, and there's a lot of support for vulnerable people, but there are also people that go away for education and don't come back because they don't have a place, and there's always priority for these vulnerable people. But I think people that go out of their way to become educated should be considered as a priority as well. I just wanted to know or comment on that.
Yeah, I think the reason why people who go out for education have such a hard time getting a house when they return is just because of the very limited amount of housing. I mean, if we had enough housing that Inuit communities need, which we don't, it wouldn't take so long. Like, I know there are people who have been on waiting lists for years, and even people I've read people have left Inuit communities because they were on a waiting list for years and years and years, and they went down south, and then they tried to go back up north, and because they left the community, they had to wait even longer. I think that's something that's very unfair. I think it goes to how the federal government has addressed housing for all Inuit. And because we have such housing shortages, that's something that people face. I think what we need to do is we need to increase the amount of housing available for everybody. And when we get to that point, we won't be running into those kinds of problems.
Nakamik Peter, thank you very much for putting your name forward. All right, so as part of the agenda that Monica had gone through earlier, from previous elections, there was the option for potential in-camera or delegate discussion. We've not used that, so I'm just asking the table if it's okay if we pause to then set up the elections and begin the election process. Is it okay if we move into that? Okay, I will just remind folks of the process. So we will take a couple of minutes to set up the area, make sure that that's ready. Um, Sorry, I'm just going to let Heather jump in here with the names of the scrutineers.
Okay, so Peter Williamson has asked Binky Anderson to be his scrutineer, and Natab Obed has asked Patrick Grubin, and Peter Etinok has opted for no scrutineer.
So each elector will be called by name to the balloting station. Each elector will sign a ledger to receive a ballot. Mark an X in the candidate of your choice and no other markings. Only an X will be accepted as a vote. The returning officers will be present, and the scrutineers, for those that have chosen scrutineers, will be present as the votes are counted. Following the count, we will come back to the annual general meeting or to the election and give you the name of the president. And just as a reminder, a candidate would need to secure a majority of the eligible votes cast, which is more than 50%. If we have to go through a second round, we'll do that possibly. Are there any questions before we get into the election? So we'll start calling names in 5 minutes to vote.
I don't understand how people can sleep like 4 hours every night. And like I need to be really rested and be like butterflies and birds in the morning. Yeah.
Okay, we're going to start calling eligible voters. The first one is Nunavut Inuvik Incorporated PJ Apiago. If you can follow me, please. Okay, so next person is Mary Angak, Makivik Corporation. Next up is Gerald Asiba with the Nunavut government. Eddie Dillon with the Inuvik Regional Corporation. Tyler Edmonds with the Nunavut government.
Essentially, I think what we can do is just release these two.
Can I have Monica L., Inuit Circumpolar Council of Canada and VP for ITK? Can I have Gerald Inglangasuk with the Inuvik Regional Corporation? Up next is Aluki Kutik with Nunavut Dungavik Incorporated. Johannes Lamp, Nunat Civil Government. David Ningungan with Nunavut Inuvik Incorporated. Up next is Darlene Partridge with Makivik Corporation. Up next is Andy Bipti with Makivik Corporation. And finally, we have Dwayne Smith at Inuvik Regional Corporation. Okay, so everybody's voted, so we're going to call the scrutineers to come up with us for the counting portion. So Binky Anderson and Patrick Rubin, can you follow me, please? All right, so we're going to start the counting process. So we're going to ask everybody to not enter the common area for now until we're done. Should take about 5 to 15 minutes.
Well, no, what I'm thinking is it's going to be 20 minutes. I don't want to do that. But it's, so basically, it's yay, you've been elected, and we do pictures.
Once they close the people to disperse.
No, we'll, so, I mean, I did call and say, listen, tell her that I can't push it too far.
Well, no, even if it gets full, then we might as well go.
Just this woman's trying for 3 days with her kids to get the passport closed down. Finally, yesterday, she's like, 11 o'clock tomorrow. I was like, okay, 11 o'clock tomorrow.
I didn't. Did you send it?
Yeah, I did.
Oh, to.
It's the same way with the page through Facebook.
Okay.
Yeah. I didn't have it. Okay. Yay, Inuvik.
Yeah, no, I didn't either.
Hello. Could I have your, while we're waiting, I guess, could I have your attention for a few minutes while all the delegates are here? I understand a lot of you rearrange your travel and you're leaving today so that you could make it home. We really appreciate you being here and coming to our region. We hope that you enjoyed the trip. But since we've altered the schedules, we just wanted to say thank you while we've got this moment, because I know you guys are all going to be rushing to check out and pack and that sort of stuff. And we want to give you a gift bag so that you have to repack again. But if Jerry could help me, and Christine will just bring around a gift bag to the delegates, and we really appreciate you guys coming to the region and I hope you have a better understanding of what the Inuvik are and our region and that sort of thing. But thank you very much for coming and safe travels home.
Blackfly Studios always comes through. David will take it. I'll leave the camera with David. Get the shots. Thank you. Thank you very much. Anytime. A little more notice next time. But yeah, anytime. So yeah, so David will, I'll leave this with David. Nice shots. And I trust him. Trust him with his shooting. He's okay. Thanks. Yeah, yeah. Cool. Thank you. All right. Thanks. Thank you very much.
Thank you again to all candidates. I'll make the announcement and then I will pass the table over to Monica. So in the election of the Inuit Anatomy president, there were 13 eligible voters and there were in total 13 valid votes cast. I would like to congratulate and announce the president of Inuit Anatomy, Natan Obed.
Okay, I'll now ask members, we'll move a motion.
One quick pause. I'm sorry, I forgot to say the election. So there was a majority vote for the president, for the new president.
Thank you. A motion for the chief returning officer to destroy the ballots. I'll have Eddie moved and seconded by PJ. All in favor? Okay, we'll call upon the elected president to be sworn in by Lillian Elias. If you can do it like last time.
I, Natan Obed, do solemnly swear that I will faithfully, truly, impartially, and honestly, and to the best of my judgment, skill, and ability, execute and perform the duties required of me as president of Inuit Anatomy, and will follow all policies and bylaws of Inuit Anatomy.
Okay, I'll pass the floor to the new president.
Nakumik, I'm honored and humbled for your faith in me for a second term. I will do my best to continue on implementing our strategy and action plan and all the great work that has been directed to us by the ITK Board of Directors. Also will ensure that we continue to have improved relations between our Inuit regions in the way in which we undertake our work. And also I pledge to do even more to communicate with all the Inuit across Inuit Nunagat to promote Inuit unity. And I'm very thankful for the opportunity to hold this job. And I look forward to working with all of you and with all Inuit across Inuit Nunagat. Nakumik.
close the meeting.
Lieutenant,
Yes, we need a motion, sorry. Go ahead.
There's one condition that you have to wear this.
I didn't swear to any conditions, but thank you for the gift, Dwayne.
A mover to close the meeting, PJ FL. Seconded by Dwayne. All in favor? Okay. Closed.
Excuse me, we would like to just close with a prayer. Lillian Elias is going to do the closing prayer.